Hello everybody, this is the Raw Egg Challenge. I've been nominated by Jonathan Lavelle, whose charity was Horatio's Garden. This is a garden which provides a place of refuge for spinal injuries patients, and I'm going to donate to Jonathan's charity. My charity is different. It's the Pete Shelley Memorial Campaign. Pete Shelley unfortunately died in December 2018 of a heart attack. He was the lead singer of the Buzzcocks, original Spiral Scratch. The best song was Boredom, and he was born in Lee near Wigan, and the fund is to raise a memorial statue for the memory of Pete Shelley. What I have to do is eat a raw egg, wash it down with True Blood, and finish it off with Paradox Oil. Paradox Oil was invented by my friend Jeff Hayhurst, who took me to the first Buzzcocks concert of our Buzzcocks career in Manchester Poly in 1977. Buzzcocks were of course nice punks. Ever fallen in love with someone you shouldn't have fallen in love with? And vampires in True Blood were nice vampires. And here goes. Now, that's the way a punk eats a raw egg. Thought I might eat a wipe. True Blood. Cheers. Paradox Oil. Ugh. Oh, nearly made me gag there. Now, Pete Shelley Memorial Campaign, and I will depart with a paradox. I'm off to surf on a wave of nostalgia for an age yet to come. Thank you.
Hi, good evening and welcome. My name is William the Poet. It's always a fantastic pleasure and an honour to help out the Pete Shelley Memorial Campaign. I'd like to say a massive thank you to Paul Eller for asking me to come on. As you can notice, I've had a COVID-19 haircut since you last seen me. So enjoy the poems. This is the first one. As the lockdown kicked in, the people stayed indoors, and things that mattered so much didn't seem important anymore. Clothes and designer gear no longer carried prestige. It was similar to living life under siege. People stayed indoors and they rested at ease. Some found novels, some were easily pleased. Some found art and some listened to songs. Some worked in the garden and they could do no wrong. People had a different outlook on life. Some for the first time even started getting on with a wife. Some carried on breaking the rules. They never realised they was being such fools. They carried on in the same old ways, sadly until it ended the days. And when the danger ended and we could finally grieve, some people then started to believe that life would return to what it was, realising all was not lost, and the earth started to heal again. No longer was it screaming in pain, and visions of a New England was in our hearts, and them that survived were destined never to be apart.
Hi everybody, my name's Kenny from Buzzcocks Tribute Band. Hope you're all safe and well. A big shout out to Paul and Krishna and the team for doing a great job as usual. I'm going to do an acoustic version of Love You More with a bit of added synth.
Buzzcocks and Pete Shelley were a constant feature in my life for over 40 years. I still have the same flyer from the first ever concert I saw the Buzzcocks in 1978. Followed them ever since then through those classic first 3 albums and onto his electronic career. But it's not just the music, it's that lasting legacy, the DIY ethic, you know, getting your records out, not needing the music industry behind you, and of course those great sleeve designs, the shirt designs, and of course those great gigs where he actually took the Pistols out of London and the home counties for the first time. So we have a lot to be thankful for, and it's just a privilege and a pleasure to be part of this project.
Hi, Tim from The Harvest. I knew Pete Shelley from, well, the first time I met him was at the Letter Free Trade Hall when the Buzzcocks played with the notorious Sex Pistols gig. That was 1976. And we went to see the gig, me and my friends, John, the postman, and a few other people, because we'd heard about Sex Pistols and we thought, well, this should be an interesting gig. Anyway, we went along and it was interesting. And we thought the Buzzcocks were really good. We thought they were actually better than Sex Pistols, dare I say. Anyway, that was the first time I met him. I just said hello, because in those days gigs were very formal. They weren't informal at all. I don't know. I think that may have been sort of some idea of the punk ethos, you know, the fact that, you know, you didn't have to be a rock star, we're just normal people, just people just creating music, art. So there was none of this formality. It was very informal, you know. We just saw them after the gig, you know, walking around in the bar, and I just said hello. Thought it was very good. Anyway, the next time I met Pete was it was another gig near the Free Trade Hall. I can't think who it was. It was quite soon after that. It may have been Eddie and the Hot Rods, not sure. But we used to go in a pub called the Cox's Bar, and we went there, and Pete was there with his manager, Buscott's manager, Richard Boone. So we just got talking and we made friends. And we were talking about things we had in common. Me and Pete started talking about, I asked him what sort of bands he liked, and he said Can. And we both hit it off in terms of a band that we both really liked. So we were talking about a lot about Can. And we were talking to Richard as well, and we made friends, you know, and like I say, it was very informal. So after that, we used to go and see the Buscotts wherever they play in Manchester. And the Electric Circus, we used to go there, see them there a lot. They always playing the Electric Circus every Sunday night. And also the Ranch Bar, which was in Manchester. That was a cellar club, and that was kind of an hangout for lots of punk types and people into creating new things, music, art. And Peter used to go there, and I met the rest of the band there as well. There used to be gigs on there as well, because Buscotts played there and various other bands. And I just kind of got involved with John the Postman, who was making some kind of music, shall we say. So I just decided to play drums, although I had no experience, and well, none of us had, but we used to do gigs there at the ranch. And anyway, we're all friends, you know, so Pete was there, we was always at their gigs. And like I say, the Electric Circus was a bit of an interesting one, because I remember we used to always, you know, watch the Buscotts, and we always used to think, oh, well, we could do this. So I said to John the Postman, who was my friend at the time, I said, why don't you get up on the stage, and we know them, they'll just let us use the gear. So that's what we did, and they didn't object. And we carried on doing things like that at most of the gigs. You know, John always got up, and I ended up trying to play the drums, kind of free form with no experience of actual free form at that time. Anyway, it was very much like that with Pete. You know, it was very informal, and all the gigs we used to go to the ranch, we used to bump into him, we used to have a chat. We were kind of friends. Well, we were friends.
She works in a bar, but she can't sing a note, and she'll never be a star. So she empties the ashtrays and jumps in a car, switches on the engine and laughs at the stars. She looks at the sights and sees all the lights, the gay clubs at night and the prettiest star. They're still kinda hip, but they don't have a chance, as the pensioners line up for the Northern Soul dance. Cause she's going away, going to Blackpool today. She's getting away, she don't care what they say. She walks on the prom and thinks about what goes on, and it don't matter who you are, cause you can laugh at the stars. She thought about the past and the people that laughed when she had all her chocolate and stayed in a bath. She looked in her heart and it was broken apart. Oh, we were so vain, it was fucked from the start. So she walks down and up the Golden Mile and thinks about that man that never gave a damn. The ice cream gets hard and she looks at the trams and what will never be, and the black sea. Cause she's going away, going to Blackpool today. She's getting away, she don't care what they say. She walks on the prom and thinks about what goes on, and it don't matter who you are, she can laugh at the stars. Yeah, she's going away, going to Blackpool today. She's getting away, she don't care what they say. She walks on the prom and thinks about what goes on, and it don't matter who you are, cause you can laugh
us. The people's will has made him feel so ill. He does his can, believe the tops and all that crap. Dennis votes, worked in shops and now he's older us. Dennis votes, worked in shops and now he's older us. Shops and now he's older us. Dennis votes, worked in shops and now he's older us. Dennis votes, worked in shops and now he's older us. Dennis votes, worked in shops and now he's older us. Dennis votes, worked in shops and now he's older us. Dennis votes, worked in shops and now he's older us. Dennis votes, worked in shops and now he's older us. Dennis votes, worked in shops and now he's older us. Dennis votes, worked in shops and now he's older us. Dennis votes, worked in shops and now he's older us. Dennis votes, worked in shops and now he's
That was the first time I met Pete Shelley. Monday the 20th of September 1976, the Holdsworth Hall, Deansgate, Manchester. I'd got on a National Express coach in London with guitars and drums all in the boot of the coach. We'd travelled up to Manchester where we were met by Andy's dad, an elegant, sophisticated Egyptian headmaster in a tweed three-piece suit with a tie, and Pete Shelley with blue hair, safety pin in his ear, gold lame trousers, I seem to remember. They made a bit of an odd couple, but they took us to the venue where the Buzzcocks went on and played to what was already quite a large following, and they were great. They went down really well. We then went on. Most bands' first gigs aren't great, but ours was really bad. We were well received before we started playing. By the end of the first song, people were looking a bit confused. About halfway through the second song, someone had gone out, bought themselves a tuna and sweet corn sandwich. They were that unimpressed, and then decided, having taken a couple of bites out of it, that they hated us so much they were going to throw it. So they hit me with this sandwich, and that started an absolute barrage of things flying up onto the stage. And we decided the best way to deal with this was to start abusing them. That wasn't a good idea. And I think we were in the third or possibly just starting the fourth song when things were getting really bad, and Howard and Pete had to come on and placate the crowd while security dragged us backstage. And we were not very happy at all, but whilst Howard was busy telling Andy that it was the most avant-garde punk thing he'd ever seen in his life and that we should be proud of it, Pete was busy convincing me that, having been through that at the age of 15, It was never likely to be as bad as that ever again. So therefore the only way was up, and I should see it as a notch on the bedpost, as it were. And it was good advice indeed. He helped us through quite an emotionally painful evening. The last time I saw Pete was in 1996. I'd done an interview with him backstage at Blackpool at the Holidays in the Sun festival, and during it we realised that we were both living quite close to each other in Camden at the time, so we arranged to meet up for a bite to eat and a cup of tea in this cafe just off the Camden Road, which we did, and we had a good catch up then. And he was as much of a gentleman 20 years on as he was back then, which is not surprising. To my mind, if you want to craft the perfect punk pop song, you need look no further than Mr. Shelley himself, and this is one of my favourites.
I just wanna love her like any other, what do I get? I just want a friend who'll stay till the end, what do I get? What do I get? Oh, what do I get? What do I get? Oh, what do I get? I need distress, I need a caress, what do I get? I'm not on the make, just need a break, what do I get? What do I get? Oh, what do I get? What do I get? Oh, what do I get? I only get sleepless nights, alone here in my half-empty bed. For you things seem to turn out right, I only wish it happened to me instead. What do I get? Oh, what do I get? What do I get? Oh, what do I get? Let me tell you now. Sleepless nights, alone here in my big empty bed. For you things seem to turn out right, I only wish it happened to me instead. What do I get? Oh, what do I get? What do I get? Oh, what do I get? I just wanna love her like any other, what do I get? I just want a friend who'll stay till the end, what do I get? What do I get? Oh, what do I get? What do I get? Oh, what do I get? What do I get? No love. What do I get? No sleep at night. What do I get? Nothing that's nice. What do I get? Nothing at all, at all, at all, at all. 'Cause I don't get you.
Next up, we're going to do Brass and Cocket by the Pretenders.
I got brass in pocket. I got vinyl. I am gonna use it. Attention. Feeling the tail. Gonna make you notice. I got motion. We're straight emotion. gonna use my arms, I'm gonna use my legs, I'm gonna use my style, I'm gonna use my sight skill, I'm gonna use my fingers, I'm gonna use my imagination. Whoa, 'cause I'm gonna make you see nobody else here, no one like me. 'Cause I'm special, so special. I gotta have some of your attention. Give it to me. I got rhythm, can't miss a beat. I got new skin, sorry. I got something. I'm winking at you. I'm gonna make you notice. I'm gonna use my arms, I'm gonna use my legs, I'm gonna use my style, I'm gonna use my sight skill, I'm gonna use my fingers, I'm gonna use my imagination. Whoa, 'cause I'm gonna make you see there's nobody else here, no one like me. 'Cause I'm special, so special. I gotta have some of your attention. Give it to me, 'cause I'm gonna make you see nobody else here, no one like me. 'Cause I'm special, so special. I gotta have some of your attention. Give it to me.
This is a poem dedicated to all our key workers, especially them at the NHS. As a working class person, I'd like to thank them from the bottom of my heart, because without them now we'd really be up shit creek without a paddle. When it's all over, we'll drink again. Stuck in alone, feeling the pain. The airy streets will see no more, and the buses will pass by your door, and the shops will sell the things you desire, and we'll drink and drink until we tire. Beat this we will, we're in it together. I'll remember you forever and ever. But when these dark times are a thing of the past, I'll turn to them that went the extra mile. The unsung heroes, we will smile. The NHS and all the rest, without a doubt, you're the best. Not all heroes do wear capes. You're the ones we turn to in this scrape. No CEO or billionaire could face the day you stare. We owe you for every second you work. You're in our hearts, no matter how much it hurts. And when push comes to shove, you pass the test. On behalf of everyone, we love you. You're our NHS, and you're the best.
Hi, my name's Gig from Lee, and here's my ode to the wonderful Mr. Pete Shelley. Every single word of this is true, and thanks for listening. Just a young punk, 1979. Youth opportunities, Thatcher's bitten, a sign of the times. Rumbelows Lee on £12.75. A van lad back then, as I was too young to drive. Delivery down Landside, in the name of McNeish. It meant nothing to me then, just a name. Just a street. First thing I noticed was that disc on the wall. A silver for love bites, as I seem to recall. How did you get that? Went my inquiring mind. Not sure I heard straight. My ears had gone blind. It's my son, his name's Peter, and he's in that band. I said, Peter McNeish? Sorry, I don't understand. He's changed his name now to Shelley, came the reply. I struggled to speak, my mind numb, my mouth dry. Well, I didn't meet the man, but his wonderful mum. That's my tenuous link to the legend, her son. Fast forward 10 years to Rumbelows in Bolton. assistant manager now. My life had moved on. Well, a punk's still a punk at heart anyway, just doing my job, another ordinary day. In walked a man with a TV to buy. I was going through the motions, I didn't have to try. But a sale had been made, and in double quick time. He said, "Can you have it on credit?" I said, "Sure, that's just fine." Taking down details, I said, "Name and address, please." He said, "Peter McNeish." He may as well have said, "John Cleese." Again, it meant nothing to me, and that's my truthful admission. Then I asked occupation. He said, "Professional musician." "Anyone that I've heard of?" I was in for a shock. He said, "Singer-songwriter, guitarist, Buzzcocks." So I relayed my story of his mum and landside. We spoke like old friends, a punk bursting with pride. "Peter, thanks for the music, for the stories, the highs. 6th of December 18, sat with tears in my eyes. At an open mic night, I'm sure you watched from above. I told the sad news and my story. I sang Ever Fallen in Love. Every word written's true. Now here's a calculated risk. For the person who's got it, any chance of that disc?" Cheers, thanks very much. Have a good day.
When I'm lying in my bed at night, I don't wanna grow up. Nothing ever seems to turn out right. I don't wanna grow up. How do you move in a world apart that's always changing things? Makes me wish that I could be a dog. When I see the price you pay, I don't wanna grow up. I don't wanna ever be that way. I don't wanna grow up. Seems like folks are the silly things they never want. The only thing to live for is today. I'm gonna put it in my TV set. I don't wanna grow up. Open up the medicine chest. I don't wanna grow up. I don't have to shout it out. I don't want my head to fall out. I don't wanna be filled with doubt. I don't wanna be a good boy scout. I don't wanna have to learn to count. I don't wanna have the biggest amount. I don't wanna grow up. When I see my parents fight, I don't wanna grow up. They go all out drinking all night. I don't wanna grow up. I'd rather stay here in my room, nothing other but sad and gloom. I don't wanna be the big man feeling home. When I see the 5 o'clock news, I don't wanna grow up. Comb my hair and shine the shoes. I don't wanna grow up. Stay around in my hometown. I don't wanna put money down. I don't wanna get a big old loan. Work them fingers to the bone. I don't want to phone a boom. Fall in love and man in a boom. How did it get here so soon? 'Cause I don't wanna grow up.
This is, I'd like you to join me on this one. First one is Tequila on the saxophone, and I just want you all to shout Tequila at the right point, yeah? So here we go, let's see how this goes.
justified. Just another day on Ward 16. Man in white's turned off your light. Now it's time to go. You were the greatest love that's ever been.
I'm a Buzzcocks fan who lives by a bizarre quirk of circumstances in Atherton that's next to Pete's family. I'm from Manchester, but not from this part of Manchester. I'm a fan of the band, have been since I was maybe 11 or 12. My dream was to meet the band, and I ended up meeting them, and I've ended up having some adventures with them over the years. So currently at the moment, I've written a book with Pete. It was written a number of years ago, and that now may be ready to see the light of day. And I also do these paintings incorporating Buzzcocks lyrics, a couple of which you can see behind me. My favourite Pete Shelley song might be one of his solo songs. It might be Millions of People, No One Like You, or possibly Telephone Operator. And my favourite Buzzcocks song may be Run Around off the Modern album from the year 2000, 1999 it came out in. So not necessarily one of the United Artists years ones.
Okay.
If I had to pick a favourite song from that era, it might be either Nostalgia or 16 Again off the Love Bites album. I had a few flirtations with other bands before I picked the Buzzcocks as my band. I started listening to music it was in 1979, in the last few months when I was in junior school. I went to Bowker Vale School in Blakely. Began to be interested in music then. Started buying smash hits that summer. I think I bought my first smash hits, the issue after the one that the Buzzcocks were in that summer. The first band I liked briefly was The Police, then The Skids, then The Undertones, then The Jam for maybe about 2 or 3 years, and then I liked Buzzcocks concurrently with those bands, and then I settled on Buzzcocks as my band. And I think part of the attraction probably was that they were from Manchester and that they seemed very sort of northern and very sort of homely. I don't mean that in the American way. I mean in a sort of approachable and, like nice lads from Manchester, ordinary blokes that were maybe like people that I would know. And the music. And then after that, I suppose I very much liked the designs of the sleeves. So they were an entire package for me. They weren't just good songs or nice looking blokes or happened to be from my city. There was an entire sort of package of stuff that appealed to me. I'm patient and I've waited, you give me a run around. I love trust that is true, just give me a... I was working in IT as a database consultant, and one of my business associates was just starting up a free sheet, you know, like a magazine that was full of adverts. And he just said to me, if you want to write a column, you can write a column on whatever you like. Because all a thing like that is a vehicle for selling advertising. So because I'd started going out again to get over my broken relationship, I started writing reviews, both of club nights and of band nights. So that when I met them in December, it was sort of in my professional capacity. So what I did for that, I got in touch with their record company because that was just as Modern had come out at the end of 1999. I said, would it be possible to interview the band? They put me in touch with the promoter for the Northwestern shows, who was Alan Wise, who's someone who's also gone down in musical history, Manchester musical history for a number of reasons. I got in touch with him. He said, just come to the shows with me. I ended up working as his sort of runner, doing things like going out and buying the buffet for the band in the dressing room and helping, typed up the set list. You know, I was like his assistant working for free for 5 gigs, and it was fantastic. And then I started writing professionally, writing for sort of proper magazines. And then that was it. I sort of knew them from that.
Love scarcely warrants a mention. You're driving me crazy, you give me the runaround.
I went to an Andy Warhol exhibition in Madrid in 2001, and I'd only just started going to art galleries, and there were these huge canvases that were incorporating things like the General Electric logo and the Ford logo. I think they may have been done towards the end of his career. Do you know, he was shot, and I think after that he didn't really do the painting himself. It was people that worked under his direction. And I saw these huge logos in very attractive colours on enormous canvases. And I was sort of thinking, I wonder how he could replicate those, you know, rather than paint them all freehand. I wonder if there'd be a way, you know, to transfer those sort of images onto canvas. So I experimented with it and then found that you could do it onto fabric. And so this was a few years later when I did it, but in the year 2006, I made a couple of shirts for Pete Shelley using that technique. So apparently it's the technique that Banksy uses to make his murals. I print out the stuff, I work out the lettering that I want, print it out onto paper, trace it onto sticky back plastic. You cut the stencil out with a tiny pair of scissors, and then you can apply that either onto a canvas or onto garments. And you can use it maybe 2 or 3 times before the adhesiveness wears off it. So I found that after I'd made these shirts for Pete, I was able to, as a spin-off, I was able to make some canvases. So that's how I came to be painting on canvas.
Right. Excellent. And so he wore those as part of like his stage thing, didn't he, for a while?
Yeah, in the year that they were touring with Flatpack throughout the year 2006.
Confession's good for the soul. We both see better days. I'm getting so frustrated. You give me the runaround.
I mean, although Pete's been interviewed quite a bit, so the questions asking him, he's not been asked previously. I mean, the interviews were very relaxed. I was sitting up in bed in my house in Tottenham, and Pete was speaking. We were speaking through a web chat online. He was speaking from his home in Estonia. So they were very relaxed interviews, you know, not formal interviews. And I think he was able to relax and speak in a more relaxed way than he has done in interviews, say, with magazines. There have been song-by-song books published previously about Squeeze and about the Stranglers. So to write my book, I just used that format. So what it is where you explore each song individually. So the story is told in chronological order because you start with the first song and end with the last song. And in talking specifically about the songs, some anecdotes that haven't seen the light of day before crop up. Do you want to hear one? Okay. Well, when they recorded Ever Fallen in Love, which obviously ended up being their biggest hit, they recorded it just as they were recording the other tracks for the Love Bites album. And Pete said that all the wives and girlfriends had come down to London. The band was staying in a service flat while the album was being recorded. And the wives and girlfriends had come down to go shopping in the West End. So the other 3 members of the band and the respective girlfriends and wives went shopping in the West End for the day. And Pete stayed in the studio with Martin Rushent, and they recorded all the, it's got layers of backing tracks in Ever Fallen in Love. Some of those were Pete's voice and some of those were Martin Rushent's voice. And when the rest of the band and the wives and girlfriends came back, Martin Rushent said, I think this might be the one that's going to be your next single. And he played it for them and the jaws dropped because it was the one. It was magical. And maybe Pete working on his own in the studio with Martin Rushent had made it be special. Maybe if the entire band had have been there, it would have produced a different kind of experience, because Martin and Pete writing together was very sort of intimate, and they sort of understood each other very well, and worked well as a team. The section in I Believe is quite a long one, because it's a very complex song, isn't it? That's got a lot of complex ideas in it. So the kind of thing he's talking about is, about being conflicted. I think it was written at a time, anyone listening to the album can pick up the feeling that it was a sort of painful album to write for Pete, that he was suffering from the pressures of fame, a fame that he'd never expected to get or maybe wanted to get, suffering, pressures within the band. I think the relationship with the record company was beginning to change a bit. So you feel that pain in the song. So those ideas that he's talking about are, I suppose, just kind of getting something off his chest, and just, it's a song that's very personal to him, because they're all written from the heart, not written as potential chart-topping singles, not something that he'd expect to get on top of the pops, but written, from very deep personal feelings. Him letting me write this book when I was only I was a sort of regional small-time journalist for sort of less than 2 years. And when I asked him to write this book, this is just an example of the sort of generosity that he had towards his fans. I just said, can I write a book with you? And he just said, yeah. He didn't need any justification for that. He didn't want to know what my previous experience had been. He didn't want to know how I was going to approach publishers and sell myself to publishers or agents. He didn't ask me any questions. He just said, yeah. And that was just an example of how kind he was.
But the way things are going wouldn't be no surprise.
came here just to test you. Even when I wish we never left the bedroom. And I said before, but you don't think I'm nice. Wishing we had more time. Do you think you might? No, I think you talk too much. And now I got this off my mind. You're way too scared to touch. I'm not waiting on my future light. Now drop yourself another lie. And I think you had enough. Something's changed in my thinking. She wanted to do it, she needed to do it to show how. Don't tell me how to think, you know nothing about this.
As you noticed, I might have changed a little since the Ever Fallen in Love with gig, mainly because of that there. See that? That there? Yes. I've got two Yorkies, you see. Anyway, I left my teeth at the side of the settee one night, went to bed, woke up, bit it, hadn't they? Yes, it bit it. Thought that'd make you laugh. Right, getting back to the Ever Fallen in Love with gig, that was an absolutely fantastic gig. It's probably been the best gig I've ever been involved with. There were some brilliant bands on at the night, The Distractions, Fast Cars, Not Sensibles, Benefit State and The Drones. Really enjoyed that gig, and the best thing about it was raised a few quid for the Pete Shelley Memorial thing. So if you can give out tonight, make sure you do. It's really important. Right, have you noticed, since we've been on this lockdown, it's all been cooking programmes, hasn't it? Every single day there seems to be a cooking programme on. So I wrote this poem called Flatten the Curve. Flatten the curve, they said it on the telly. Try telling that to my bloody belly. Every show I see on TV, it seems to be about cooking, you see. They're cooking fish, they're making cakes. Then that tastes just great. So I go to the fridge and I eat some more. Now I struggle to get out of the door. My pants are so tight, I'm starting to burst. Then at night, I quench my thirst. I've drank all the beers, the spirits and the gin since this lockdown did begin. When will it end? No one really knows. But as it continues, all I do is grow. My waistline started off as a 32, but now I haven't really got a clue. So now I've decided to give the fridge a swerve, all to flatten the curve.
This is a different kind of tension live. I'm Stuart from Litterbug, and if you click the link below, you can raise money for the Pete Shelley Memorial, which will be in Lee, his hometown. The money will also go towards any future art or music done by the young kids of Lee. Alexa, when will Dominic Cummings be sacked?
Here's something I found.
Oh.
Niles Barkley, and it's crazy.
And all I remember is thinking I wanna be like them. Ever since I was little, it looked like fun. And it's no coincidence I've come. And I can die when I'm done. Ah, well, does that mean we're crazy? Does that mean we're crazy?
Just lost the guitar strap at the end.
Telephone operator, why can't I see you better? Telephone operator, why can't I see you better? Tell me if the line that makes it so fine, or is it picture?
Hello everybody, my name is Eddie Mooney and I'm in a band from the 70s called Eddie Mooney and the Grave, a punk band, and we did gigs with lots of people, including of course the Buzzcocks and Pete Shelley. And members of the band, there was myself on vocals and on the bass, Mike Rowbottom still with us today on guitar. Originally the drummer was Chris Fisher, who passed away some years ago, and more recently Rick Medlock from Coventry. Now, we've been asked to take part in this, and it's a privilege to be involved in the Pete Shelley Memorial Campaign, which was established in 2019 following the sad death of Pete, of course. And the idea is to raise enough funds to erect a permanent memorial for Pete in his hometown of Lee in Lancashire. And of course, this event goes out today to try and raise funds for that. And of course, the long-term goal, as well as the thing for Pete, is also to raise some money for kids for music in the future, and the funds will go into that as well, and you'll get more information about that. Anyway, hopefully you've heard the other clip that we sent, which was the video of our single from last October, which was called Dennis Votes. And we did another single in March, and in fact there is the single, and it was prophetic really, because we did the single, it came out in March just as the lockdown started, and it's called Down the Drain. So there was a bit of prophecy for you. So it's never been done live, and I'm going to do a live version. I've got the backing track on here, but I'm going to have a crack at it live. So as I say, support the campaign. And here it is, Eddie Mooney in the Grave, except the Grave are on the phone, and the track is called Down the Drain. Here we go. It seems so insane, we're getting nothing much at all. Slipping down the drain, it's just another business scam. Nothing much to gain, and no one really gives a damn. It seems so insane, unnecessary pain. Slipping, sliding, falling down the drain. Slipping, sliding, falling down the drain. Falling down the drain, I don't know what they're shouting for. Unnecessary pain is what will make us very poor. Sliding down the drain, and no one really seems to care. It seems so insane, just falling down the drain. It seems so insane, unnecessary pain. Slipping, sliding, falling down the drain. Yeah. Slipping, sliding, falling down the drain. Take it away, Michael Rowbottom.
train. It seems so insane, unnecessary pain. Slipping, sliding, falling down the drain. 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 Thank you. See you soon. Woo!
Say don't love me. Well, that's alright with me, 'cause I'm in love with you. I wouldn't want you doing things you don't want to do. Oh, you know I've always wanted you to be in love with me. And it took so long to realize the way things have to be. I don't want to live in a dream, I want to be real. Understand it, I understand now the way that you feel. You say you don't. You say you don't. You say you don't love me. Well, that's alright with me, 'cause I am got the time. So wait in case someday maybe you might change your mind. I've decided not to make the same mistake this time around. I'm tired of having heartaches. I've been to think about. I don't want to live in a dream, I want something real. And I think that I understand now the way that you feel. You say you don't. 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 You say you don't love me. Well, that's alright with me, 'cause I'm not in love with you. I just want us to do the things we both want to do. Though I've got these special feelings, I'll be the rock of love. For the words that sense the feelings I would get rid of. I am not on the end of the dream, and it's finally real. And I hope that you understand it, the feeling I feel. You say you don't. You say you don't. You say you don't love me. Say you don't love me. You say you don't love me.
Hi, my name's Andrew Hook. I'm a writer from Norwich. Punk has always been a big influence in the writings that I've done. In fact, I've even edited a punk anthology previously as well. Buzzcocks, big part of that as well. Used to like going to their gigs a lot, of course. Pete Shelley's brilliant lyrics, and such a presence, such a nice guy, I always seem to think, in the scene. So fairly recently, after the passing of Pete Shelley, I was invited to contribute to this book called Love Bites, which is an anthology of stories that have been influenced by Pete and the Buzzcocks. And so I thought it might be appropriate for this memorial programme for me to read my piece, which was in that particular anthology. It's a very short piece, it's a piece of flash fiction. So this is what I'm going to do for Pete. And the story's called Life Plus Illusion Equals Love Plus Dream. Backstage, 1976. Hey Pete, Shelley turns, catches a beer. Happy now? Backstage, 1977. Shelley's Red Starway bounces against rehearsal space. A chunk breaks clear. Devoto makes a grab. I'll have that. Shelley bends for the guitar for boys and girls. It works a treat. Cut up art and cut up instrument. Gig interrupted. Request for disco. Backstage, 1978. Shelley tilts his head towards the journalist. A wry smile cuts space. A flowered shirt blooms sexual. The sound of the support band, his breeze block condensed in the dressing room. I won't be nasty. We're just four nice lads. The kind of people you could take home to your parents. Those wild parties that no one remembers. Do I look vile and obscene? Backstage, 1979. 1, 2, 3, 4. When it comes to work, we're conscientious objectors. Diggle snorts, the assumption that work is something I wouldn't want to do. But they want to do this, the touring, whoring, boring bus journeys, the hotels, motels, B&Bs, the chords, the acceptance, that one sweet lyric, top of the pops, the whistle test, revolver, so it goes, so it goes. Backstage, 1980. Everything goes faster, riding Frisco speedballs, even the growth of a thin spithed moustache, and golden trails. You've got to make your own fun rather than relying on anyone else to make it for you. The fun factory is everything it shouldn't be. Backstage, 1981. Sometimes when you look at life, it's framed in a different light. Backstage, 1982. Solo, homo, sapien. A cool April evening in New Jersey, Manhattan, over the way. Remembering Milton Street, Lancashire. The spume of a boat in its wake. Eating biscuits in a white suit at the Ritz Theatre. Backstage, 1989. Shelley walks in. Diggle walks in. Mayer walks in. Garvey walks in. Buzzcocks walk out. Backstage, 1996. Shelley talks of stopping traffic on the 20th anniversary of punk. The beer isn't cold enough. There are rumours it might be colder. Interviewer, for you, where did punk come from? Shelley, a little old lady in Dorset, sent me a note saying check this out. Backstage, 2006. Touring never ends. There was a time when it was possible to do certain things, and the bigger surprise was that we got away with it. Active participants rather than passive consumers. They seemed to like it. Backstage, 2014. Punk? Well, I suppose it's this. In Earth's history, only 3 minutes ago a small group of animals began walking upright, gathering in groups, using tools. You see what you can do in 3 minutes? Just that. Backstage, 2018. Hey Pete. Shelley turns. Wakes. So as I say, that's from the anthology Love Bites, published by Dostoevsky Wannabe. And this is a recording for the memorial programme for Pete Shelley. May he rest in peace. Thank you.
It's a mix of world, it's a mix of times, and the recipe of last mix of two. But if it's the quality of the ingredients, no matter what myself a thought of blue. But I can't help thinking that you won't understand unless I did a lot of explaining to you. I look around but I still look the same. I don't even know if my life be loved again. The only thing I can rely on is change. You know I'm often wondering if what you're telling me is true. But I know that I can make it if I have my friends to see me through.
There was a lot of talk after Pete passed away. We suddenly started to see a lot of activity and just people wanting to share best wishes and just celebrate some of the work that he'd done over the years. And through that, there seemed to come like a real core of people who, you know, all from very different walks of life and different areas who it just started to come about on social media, a lot of talk of wanting to create something lasting. There's a bit of a legacy, a bit of a memorial to Pete. And I guess it kind of grew from there, from some of those initial conversations with strangers across social media to kind of what we've got today and the events that we've seen and attended and all the big involvement. So it's very much just grown from the ideas of a couple of people, which has been fantastic, really. started thinking about this before, and I kind of came to the conclusion that I think I've got a song for sort of every emotion. So it depends what I'm thinking at the time. But I really do think that there's so many that sort of stand out for me of just absolutely capturing like a mood. I think Why Can't I Touch It is always one that I go back to, because I just think I can just see it, and I love the way that I can relate to it so much. Promises is always another one that I love, and I think Love You More just completely captures sort of that teenage romance sort of feelings that I think everyone sort of experiences once in a lifetime, and that you get through and remember. So I feel like they're really sort of hallmarks for growing up. But I couldn't really single one out as my go-to all the time that I'd love above any other. I've got one for every occasion. I do love Homo Sapien, and I think so that's also what's on the blue plaque that we've had as a bit of a memorial to Pete. And I just love the way that it shines a light on some of what he was singing about and who he was. And yeah, I think that kind of captures him perfectly. I love some of that stuff as well. Some of the stories I've heard over the years is that they knew he was destined for the stage whenever they'd go to like a summer fair or an event, anything like that, Pete would purposely get himself lost as a child so that he'd be taken to the stage, and they'd announce him over the tannoy to say, "Can Mrs. McNeish please come and collect Peter?" So I think he was sort of born for stardom from that early age, and he was always wanting to perform, I understand, from being very, very young, and always had a way to do it. Although I think early on as well, he wasn't just gifted musically, and he kind of had the world at his feet somewhat. He was a bright lad at grammar school and did very well in maths and that sort of side of things. So I think a lot of it was passion and drive to send him in the direction that he wanted, and how he ended up where he wanted to be, no matter what life threw at him. I always remember as a bit of a joke, when your aunties have funny names or there's nicknames for people in the family. And growing up and being very, very young, I just remember him being Peter Popstar and never thought anything of it. And then as we got a bit older, sort of, you just learn to hear, well, yeah, Pete writes songs, and he'd come on the radio and it'd be, "This is Pete's song," and you just, as a kid, kind of accept it. And I remember going to my first proper gig. I must have been about, I don't know, it was about 12, 13. And it was, I remember, at Manchester Academy, and kind of walking in, I almost thought we were going to like a little pub just to see, a little band play. And it was only when I kind of walked in and started to see the crowds gathering and the lights going down and things like that, that I kind of thought, oh yeah, he is a real pop star. This is But to me, he was always just Pete. So I remember him at family occasions, things like that, just so down to earth and approachable, and absolutely no airs or graces. When you're young and think of celebrity, you almost think you'll meet these people with a big beam of light or something. So I'd never kind of picked him out and said some nights he'd be there and he'd travelled the world the night before, and you just don't. And it just never came up in conversation. He was happy to be around family, and I don't remember it really being much of a discussion point, if I'm honest. It was just Peter, and it's just Pete, and he was just there, happy to perform. I remember we had my brother's christening, back in 1990, and he'd just come on stage playing in front of thousands of people in Sweden, I think, the night before. And we had like a little setup and a couple of people singing and doing bits of performances. And we kind of said to Pete, like, "Oh, go on, why didn't you sing? Get up and you can do a bit." And he was so nervous. And it was still that element of, "But you all know me, no, and it's family." So he was really sort of humble about what he did as well. So yeah, I remember him always just being such a down-to-earth person until it sort of hit home as I've got older. And I think it continues to, as I start to see the impact. And the more people I meet who I'll talk about his music, or it'll come up in conversation, who are sort of amazed by who he was, and when you hear the stories of how he's impacted so many lives and people, then you kind of think, he's as much as he was always our superstar. but it's amazing to just see and to keep seeing the impact grow and grow and grow. Even while he's not here, it's nice to still have that sense of what he's sort of given to everybody, really. What I got from him, he seemed to take inspiration from all over the place, and it was just a lot of what he seemed to write was just the way he observed the world, and almost like poetry, I suppose. Just that seemed to be his outlook on life, and I'd kind of say listening to his music did reflect like his personality, the way he was, very positive and almost full of life. But yeah, I suppose it's a bit of a gift that he seemed to possess with words to just sort of sum up a situation in the most simplistic of ways, but actually just fully capture how it was. So I know he was a big fan of all sorts of music. ABBA was a surprising one that I came to hear about. But yeah, I think he listened to all sorts of music. He was involved. He loved nothing more than talking about the universe. And I think his head was full of all these big ideas, and he just had that fantastic ability to put them on paper and share them with other people. So I kind of see Pete not just sort of for some of the really good music stuff that he did, but like you said about doing things differently, doing your own way, and sort of the way that he's overcome sort of challenges. So when the record company weren't there to sort of support him doing some of his albums, went out and did it his own way. When he was really young and couldn't get gig space, or couldn't afford to put on these big gigs, he hired church halls and performed there. So I think it was that for every problem he had a solution, and it's just a really good message nowadays. I think that kind of lasts, that there's always going to be challenges in life, but it's how you adapt to them, how do you overcome them. And for me, the other thing about him showed that Pete was never kind of the loudest person in the room, although he was the big character, on stage, full of charisma and personality. He was never the biggest voice or that way, but he could still sort of make such a big impact because what he said really mattered and really struck the chord with people. So I think having the right words as well really sort of stands out for me as someone that I appreciate more than him just being family. I just think it's a brilliant skill to have. And he just kind of showed that, where he's come from, very much a working class town. And I think at the time, boys were kind of given do you want to throw a rugby ball or do you want to go down the pits? And so to kind of say, well, no, I want to pick up a guitar and I want to do this, that, make albums and records. It was kind of a bit far out, especially to do it the way that he did and to sort of the way he dressed, the way he was approached, just to have that confidence to be his own person. I think there's a lot of that when you look around in modern culture as well. I think we still need those heroes like that kind of say it's all right to be whatever you are and do whatever you want to do. And there's ways to get there, definitely, to keep going. It's not always a traditional sort of ladder to where you want to be. You've got to make your own way. So I think he kind of, those are kind of the big lessons that I kind of took from Pete, observing him over the years and looking back at some of the things that he did. And everyone was welcome. He wanted everyone to feel included and happy in what he, what he was producing. It was very much an inclusive culture, and more the merrier. He'd had time for everybody. At his gigs, you'd often find him while the support acts were on stood front and centre, and a lot of that was anyone could approach him and talk to him. He had, he always had time before and after gigs and supporting artists that he was working with, and I think that's a major credit to someone as well in that sort of position. I think one of the more recent funnier ones was when he came to visit one Christmas. So it was quite a rarity that we'd ever sort of spend that sort of family time together. But I remember one Christmas he was over at home at my mum's with his mum as well, and it'd been just very nice, big Boxing Day family buffet, that sort of thing, and had a few red wines and the cheese, everything else had come out. And then it got to the point where my brother had just turned 18 and he was going out on the town, but it's tradition to go in fancy dress. Pete was due to go home, but suddenly it caught his fancy that he might just fancy a trip round the local town on Boxing Night with these 3 lads all dressed in like military fancy dress with drawn on tattoo moustaches, the lot. And so there's some pictures somewhere doing the rounds of a very drunk Pete sort of, with his arms around these 2 6-foot lads giving it, I love these mustachioed young men and I'm going to go out and I'm going to party and all of this. And his poor mum, bless her, in her late 80s, trying to drag him home. And he's going, no, mother, I'm a grown man. I'm going to go out. I'm going to party. And but yeah, I remember him that night because he was just so happy and in his element. And yeah, you kind of got to see. He just wanted to party with anybody.
This is a different kind of tension live online fundraiser for the Pete Shelley Memorial Campaign. I'm Gordon Gigshaw. There's a link below the video where you can donate to or buy merchandise to support the campaign, which will be putting up a permanent memorial to Pete Shelley in his hometown of Leigh, as well as supporting music and arts for kids in the area too. Cheers.
Whop up the rockets. So I know your game. First World War's never gonna be the same as it was in the old days. When the cold paid such a great big part of the First World War wonders. With soldiers rose and died in the trench, but it won't be like that this time. It's gonna get hot, just press formation. So we're rolling. Rock up the rockets. We shout the morning. There's no way out, so we might as well have it. Smack on the dance guys. That's 12 grand each for everybody in the UK. I buy the sports, but it wouldn't go far, just up to a limit. Stand the corner with the warning. Sip a champagne with a bird on the big roof. Our town, rock up the rockets. We shout the morning. There's no way out, so you might as well have it. What a good day, what a great day for the world to play. What a holiday, what a great day to end it all. Rock up the rockets, rock up the rockets, let's rock up the rockets, rock up the rockets, rock up the rockets, rockets, rock.
This is Summertime Blues. I'm gonna raise a
parlor about her working all summer just to try and earn a dollar. Every time I call my baby to ask for a date, my boss says, no, that son, you gotta work late. Sometimes I wonder what I'm gonna do, but there ain't no cure for the summertime. Well, my mama and papa told me, son, you gotta earn some money. If you wanna use a car to go riding next Sunday. Well, I couldn't go to work, told my boss I was sick. Can't use a car 'cause you didn't work a lick. Sometimes I wonder what I'm gonna do, but there ain't no cure for the summertime blues. I'm gonna take 3 weeks, gonna have a fine vacation. I'm gonna send my problem to the United Nations. Well, I called my congressman and he said, quote, I'd like to help you, son, but you're too young to vote. Sometimes I wonder what I'm gonna do, but there ain't no cure for the summertime blues. Bit of Eddie Cochran there.
I'm Mick from the Harveys. There is a link below the video where you can donate to or buy merchandise from to support the campaign, which will be putting up a permanent memorial for Pete Shelley in his hometown of Leigh.
Right, I'm coming to the end of my set now, but I'd like to thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure to help out the Pete Shelley Memorial Campaign. I just hope you find it in your heart to give a couple of quid. That's if you can, do you know what I mean? Because I know times are hard at the moment. Right, as you can see, I've had a change of top. I put my Manchester beat up on. It's one that Salford Rugby League had developed, and I'm proud to say I'm a supporter of Salford. And with Friday being the anniversary, well, the third anniversary of the death of the Manchester 22, I've come up with a little poem. 3 years ago, we lost our 22. Not a day passes when we don't remember you. 22 angels resting in heaven. What happened should never be forgiven. Remember you, we always will. Forever in our hearts, the Manchester 22. Thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And like I say, make sure you give as much as you can. It might only be a couple of quid, but a couple of quid helps towards the Pete Shelley Memorial Campaign.